The oneness, the us, should never destroy the me. Because when the me is destroyed, you are left with oneness that has got no basis. Because the two people who have come together are dead. You want to keep them alive in order to make your oneness to thrive. A oneness that has got no me and you is abusive. In other words, it is a oneness that sees your growing as an individual as a threat.
Welcome to another week of Love, Marriage and Family with Mo and Pindi. We're excited to be here once again. And thank you so much for your comments. Thank you so much for your subscriptions. And thank you so much for your feedback. I think we're quite enjoying, the feedback that we are getting each and every week. And we are also excited to be here and bringing you another exciting episode of Love, Marriage and Family.
And thank you so much, love. The way we get so busy often, in our marriages, we often tend to, do things at the marriage's expense sometimes, right? And sometimes we have dreams that we want to fulfill. And in the process, of that dream, we get married. Yeah. And, the dream takes over. Yeah. And then, the relationships suffer. Yeah. But also, we also tend to come to marriage with expectations of, I need things done this way, and that's my way because I am this particular way. And we lack in what we call balance, in our marriages. And that's really what we want to talk about today, about how to maintain balance in our marriages. And the fact that, marriage does not have to suffer just because I am pursuing a career.
Yeah. And I think also what is important is just understanding that the two can coexist. And I think that's the biggest challenge because there's even young people who are scared to get married because they are of the notion that, okay, so if I marry, then it means my career or whatever dreams that I've had for myself will suffer because I've taken this decision. Yeah. I think today it would be great for us to get into the fact that, hey, marriage is not supposed to be the end of you dreaming or the end of you pursuing a career and really being good at whatever area of your life. But being able to strike that balance, I suppose, between the two so that they both are able to win.
And that is really what we want to talk about. And these are not the only voices you're going to hear today. We are having a wonderful guest with us. And let me introduce the guest, Dr. Papu. He is an ordained minister in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. He is an internationally recognized and devout Christian leader and an experienced pastor who, along with his wife, Umamnom Tandazo, has worked with couples, families for almost 30 years. He holds 2 doctoral degrees. Dr. Papu is a well-recognized Christian apologist who travel to various parts of the world, especially at universities as well, in defense of the Christian faith and the Lordship of Jesus Christ. He travels extensively, especially in the African continent, conducting marriage and family seminars, among other things, on various diverse platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you, well, I've just done that, to welcome the one and only.
The only.
We call him our father. Dr Papu, siyakwamkela tata.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.
What a privilege.
Yeah.
Just for us to be able to sit and talk about very sensitive issues, but very important in building our families and building our marriages. We look forward to a very vibrant and dynamic discussion and engagement.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And I think thank you for fitting us in your schedule. I think one of the things that we first noticed about you was like, woo, he is very busy.
Yeah.
So for you to be here and be available for us to have this conversation really means everything to us.
And I guess it's apt for the subject we're talking about today, about balance, because in my intro, I mentioned doctoral degrees, I mentioned traveling the continent, speaker, and but you're a husband. You're a father, as well as the other things, the community leader, as well. How can you take us through just the navigation in terms of you personally, how you've managed to, in a sense, have all these touch points without the one suffering and so on, or is the one that has suffered?
Yeah, I think the best way to create that balance, and I like the concept of balance, we'll probably say much more on that. The easiest way, the simplest way, maybe it's not easy, but the simplest way of maintaining the balance is to appreciate the importance of your marriage.
Oh, wow.
Because if you don't, what's the point of creating a balance?
Yeah.
If your career is more important than your marriage, you don't need to create any balance.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
If making money is more important, why would you want to create balance?
Yes, sir.
But once you see marriage as very, very important in whatever you do, I mean whatever you do, if you see it as very important, you'll be forced to create balance. Because if you don't create that balance, you know what's going to happen? You're not only going to lose your marriage, which is very important, but even that which you are actually substituting your marriage for, you'll also lose that. So you lose your career and you lose your marriage. If marriage, as we believe here, is important. And so in my life, I have to keep reminding myself of the importance of my marriage. I'm a father, but fathering now is not as significant and important. It is important, but not in terms of proximity. I don't have young children.
Yeah.
They are fathers in their own right. But I still have to keep up with them. I still have to call. We still have to have a Zoom, a virtual meeting. How are things, guys? Where are you now in your life? Once a parent, always a parent. But that is not as pressing as it would, say, 10 years, 20 years ago. As children grow, even the focus and the priority it changes. But for my marriage with my wife, we've been married now for 38, going for 39 years in the next 2 or 3 months. That's very important. It is very important in my ministry. It is very important in what I do for the community. It is very important in how I serve God. So what am I going to do? How do I create that balance? I would like to use the word fortunate because it doesn't sound intentional. But the fortunate part with me is that I travel with my wife.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're together.
Yes.
That has both pros and cons because sometimes it's strictly business. Business, I mean, we've goals. We have to meet this. We have to do this. And sometimes you can be lost in the activity, and you can be together but be apart while you are together because you're busy with PowerPoint presentations, trying to get things together. But just being together, I think, makes a big difference.
Helps.
But having said that, you don't want to take each other for granted, even when you are together, because you can be together, and that togetherness may not be very intentional and productive. So that's how we create that balance. Of course, if I'm not in, today you are even more fortunate in that you can still have WhatsApp call. When I say WhatsApp, I mean video call. You can still talk and see each other. When we started on the journey, there were no phones. Period. I mean, I would. Now this is now 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So you would leave home for a 2-week. Maybe you're going to be away for 2 weeks, and then you say bye bye. Then
you're gone for 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, and then you say hello. Then you are back after 2 weeks. So there's nothing in between because writing a letter will take more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then you'll be
To
back
arrive.
before the. Well, we may take it for granted now. We've got all these platforms of keeping in touch, but some of us don't because you know what it meant in those days. So we appreciate the fact that we can be together even when we are apart.
Yeah.
I think there's something very profound that you said in the beginning that it's more about how important your marriage is. I think one of the things that I've learned over the years is you always make time for things that are important to you. No matter how busy you are as a human being, if that person doesn't have time for you, it actually means you are not that important.
Definitely.
Because if you were, they were going to make time for you. But I want us to, I know that, your kids are grown now, they don't need, obviously, that much attention. But I want us to start from the beginning, when you started and they were younger, because I think most couples are struggling in that initial, stages of marriage. We are coming in, I've got a career, you've got a career, we've got this marriage. How do you start that balancing sort of act in the beginning of your marriage journey?
Yeah, at some point in this discussion, we have just said marriage is important.
Yeah.
We need to actually show that it is important. We need to talk about that.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
We need to say, why do we say it is
Yeah.
important? Of course, individual growth is important as well. Because that balance comes right there.
Yes,
My
yes.
own, God has got reason. I mean, the reason for my existence is not for me to get married. All right, so it doesn't mean that if I were not married, I would be dead. But how does it fit in my mission and purpose as an individual? And how does getting married connect with that? So we still need to talk about that. Now, but to address your question, listen, it's easy now to speak from hindsight, and you can get confused in saying what you would have loved to have done and what you actually did. and sometimes you may just say, hey, this is, but I never
It's not
did
what
this.
happened. The truth of the matter.
I never really, if my kids were here, they would say it differently. Is it true?
Yeah.
So we have to keep reminding each other that, yeah, that's the theory, but did you really practically do that?
Yeah.
So that's a good
Now,
point.
when we look back with my wife now, we wish we could have done things differently.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And that's the beauty of sharing experience, so that not everyone should go through that. In other words, you fast forward. You're like fast tracking other people's relationship. Don't do what we did.
Yes.
So be
Yeah.
better than us, and you first of all do it with your children. So you know what, Daddy and Mommy, we made these mistakes, but we want to make sure that you make your own mistakes,
Yeah.
but you don't make our
Not
mistakes.
these.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least so that the next generation is better than the generation
Before.
before. Remember where we're coming from. Remember, that's very important.
Yeah.
You're talking about balance, but where did you learn marriage? You learn marriage from people who grew up under apartheid, from people who may have worked in mines. So you never saw any balance. You don't even know what word balance means in marriage. So you start off there, but now you've read, you've been exposed, and then you're trying to do something better. But then it may not be the ideal, but it's even better than your parents' marriage.
Yeah.
But then you hope the next generation will have it better than yours.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't improve in the next generation, then you know what's going to happen? We finish.
Yeah.
So what we realize is, from our perspective, a lot of things is, that's why we become better grandparents, by the way.
Oh,
Yes.
It's because we have another opportunity
You know your
to.
mistakes.
Yes. Yes.
Those things that made you feel like this is the most important thing in the world, it's no longer important.
Yeah.
We relax. Grandparents are more patient than parents.
Yes.
Because we know,
In fact, the strictest parents then, who are grandparents now,
yeah. It's
I
just like,
relax.
you're like, oh,
Yeah.
so you don't hit anyone for that. Okay.
Thina sasibetha for
yeah,
that.
it's because we have learned
Yeah.
and we are given a second opportunity at being parents
Yeah.
through grandparenting.
Yeah.
But of course, we do grandparenting in many ways. As we sit here, we're grandparenting to many parents who may have children. So one of the important things we learned was that we never really intentionally had time. We did have time.
Yeah.
But we wish we had more time, especially on my part. As a young pastor, you want to impress the church. You want the leadership to know that you are there wherever you are needed. You are there. You leave your family because this is what I want. This is where I need to be. But now as we grow, we feel like, man, I wish we would spend more time with our God has been amazing.
Yeah.
God has not punished us for the mistakes we do.
Yeah.
You see God's covering you with grace. And we need to make that point, because sometimes we do things that are not ideal, but something good comes out of that. And then we think that was right. It wasn't right. Just because it turned out right, it doesn't mean it was right. So you don't want to start, it doesn't matter. I didn't do it, but look at my kids.
Look at
they've
you
turned
now.
out- Yeah.
It's like when you were not raised well, And then parents will say, but look at you, you grew up
So
anyways.
what's your
What's your
problem?
You know?
problem?
Yeah. So as I'm saying, I noticed that, let me tell you how it manifested itself. So I'd be away, in and out, and then, of course, I would try to make up for that. On the weekend, on Sunday morning, would know that Sundays in the afternoon, we have pat with the boys, trying to make up for the time.
Yeah.
I wish I had more of that. I would go together, we'd make sure we take long drives, sort of flying. We take long drives to be together in the car. If we were going to Cape Town, flying to Cape Town is 1.5, 2 hours, but driving is 15 hours in the car. 15 hours in the car, by the time you get there, you know each other.
Yeah.
I promise you. You know who has got a girlfriend, you know who's got a crush,
Yeah.
you know, because long journey actually makes you to confess certain things that you would not have confessed. But let me tell you the effects of not being together. Then the kids tend to be attached to the mother. There's a theory of attachment that kids will be attached to the one that they see on a frequently.
On a regular
Doesn't
basis.
matter.
Yes.
It could be the maid, and I've seen it.
Yeah.
Talking about
Sure.
frequency, a theory of
Yeah.
attachment. Kids attached to the maid. I saw parents just 2 days ago. We were in a restaurant. They bring a maid to the restaurant. The maid is taking care of the child.
Whilst they are...
I couldn't believe it. And the mother like remotely, but you could see that the mother says, I'm not going to be bothered. And then I said in my heart, I wish I could go there and say, if she spends time with the maid, she'll be attached to the maid. Maybe you say there's nothing wrong, but how long are you going to keep the maid?
Oh, wow.
And then the maid is gone and the child is just attached to the maid. And now she can't see the maid anymore. There's a new maid. She gets attached to that one. And that one also
leaves.
is not there, but you are always there. Listen, the maid is temporarily there. You are there. You want to make sure you spend as much time with your child in terms of attachment as you can. So what would happen now that, I mean, this is not a rocket science. Kids will be more attached to the parent. So even when I'm there, they'll go to the mother. Mommy, we need this at school. But mommy says, but go to your father. Says, but he's a stranger. We don't know him. We don't know him. We only know you. And so they tend to be more attached to the mother. Nothing wrong with that. But then you know what they are doing? They are learning to live without me.
Oh, yeah.
In your presence.
In my
Yeah.
presence. When
My
I want to
goodness.
give now discipline, and how do you discipline children that you are strangers to? They feel like it's abuse.
Yeah.
You've not been here, and the
How-
next
how
thing
can
you're
you
telling
walk
us.
in and tell us what to do?
Then tell us what to do, but where have you been? They may not be able to articulate that. But and I had a friend whose child was able to say, but Daddy, you were not there. Daddy, you were not there. And when you come, Mommy would say, these kids are like this and like this. And then would try to discipline us. Why did you do this?
Oh.
But you were not there. And the vacuum is still there. That father absent wound. I'm not just talking about the fact that, I'm not talking about the deliberate absence where
Yeah.
you're no longer,
Yeah.
but it was for a good reason. It makes me think, this is the last point I'm making, makes you think of this young, and it can only be a girl because they tend to be able to articulate their feelings, emotions better than boys. And she says, Daddy, are you leaving again? And Daddy says, yes, I have to because I need to put food on the table. And then she says, Daddy, if I eat half of my food, would you be able to stay more at home? Then that gives it to you. Yes, they need the food, but they need you also. So that to me would be one of the areas, if I were to reverse the clock, I'll spend more time with my children.
Yeah.
Yes, now they are there. And I tried, I remember when I was doing my master's, I would go to be in-person classes. I'll take my son with me, even though I don't know what I'm going to do. I said, I'll find the solution. I said, you remain with this younger one. I'm taking this one. I'm going to university with this one. I'll be attending classes and he's outside playing and I keep saying, at least we're together.
Yeah.
And then we'll drive together in the car. If I'm being asked to fly to Joburg, we fly together. And that did something. Even now, grown up as he is, there's still that very attachment that
between
is
the
there.
two of you.
Yeah. So we have to find ways. I'm not saying don't go to work, but then remember that the fact that you are working doesn't mean that to the child he will always understand why you were not there. You've got to make up. Remember the theory of attachment. It doesn't say because there is money, then I'll be attached to the one who brings money.
Yeah.
I'll be attached to the one who's always there,
Who's
available.
present.
Sure.
Oh, my
This
goodness.
is incredible.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, kids never remember how much money we brought. They never remember how hardworking you've been as a parent, but they'll rather remember the memories that you created. And now thinking of your son that you took with you, that remains as a memory for him. You know, whenever he's talking about you, he's like, oh yeah, this is what we used to do. It's quite amazing.
In fact, just also to be a little bit personal, my mother used to work as a domestic worker, right? And I have this memory, even as a 2-year-old, she used to take me with to work. And being there, I remember playing with the child of her boss, the white boss. We grew some sort of a relationship together. But I remember that.
It's the child he had a crush with, but it's fine. The girl he had a crush with.
Anyway, but
there's the theory of attachment.
Exactly.
But Tata, tell us in terms of how do we make a couple, husband or a wife, who is driven, right? Who is driven, naturally driven, and they want to achieve and they want to do this and all of that. How do we not make them feel guilty, about still having to go for it and still having to, by in a sense, elevating the other things, elevating relationship, elevating, in other words, how do we get to that point where I can be driven, I can achieve my goals, I can do what I need to do without leaving a hole, in my family.
Yeah. In short, I would say not everybody is supposed to get married. Getting married is not imperative.
There it is.
If what you
there it is.
If what you want to accomplish is more important than anything, stay alone. But once you get married, you have to have a reason. Why did I get married? Paul had a mission, and getting married and having somebody next to him with all those travels, it was not going to work. All right. So he said, "Listen, that's fine. Marriage is good. I wish you could be like me." But you remember when he said that, he says, "But I'm this is for me," and that's it. I think people. Maybe we may be talking to the unmarried now. You better know. You should know where you want to go, and whether you want to go with someone or you want to go it alone. But nobody goes alone, But I'm just talking the sense of marriage. But what we also need to do, because people may still not agree, says, no, but my life is more important. And the reason he's saying that, it's more like a protest. Okay, what we need to do then is to slow down a little bit and give a theoretical framework. Why is important? Why is it important for us to have a balance? So but my career is important. That's important, but why is it important also for you to spend time? Why? Why is that important? Okay, if you go to Genesis 2:24, and I'm giving a theoretical background so that we can just put these things and say, how do I then, if this is so important, how then do I make sure that I realize it? So Genesis 2:24 gives us a definition of marriage from a biblical perspective. And it says, and the son, the husband will leave the father and the mother and will leave and then cleave, and then they'll become one. Yeah. So you have more like a raw formula there. Yeah. That one is the living and the cleaving. If you don't live, you can't cleave. And then there's oneness is actually not there. But we're going to have to define what we mean by oneness. And so the living is actually saying, I have a relationship. Not more important than this one. Because if you say more important, you are trying to say they are in the same set.
Yes.
Okay. They are not in the same set. Okay. You can't say an apple is more important than orange.
Yes.
But you can say this apple is better than this apple. So you don't compare. So the relationship I have with my parents, the relationship I have with my wife are two different sets of relationship.
100.
But the word that we want to use, rather than important, we rather use in priority.
Yes.
So which one do I prioritize? So they are important.
Yes.
These relationships are important, all of them. But which one do I prioritize? And then the word is cleave. So you live and then you cleave. So living doesn't mean abandon.
Yes.
Yes.
It means now prioritize.
Yes.
Because you have chosen to get married.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay? The consequences of doing that is now you must cleave. And the word cleave there is the same as pursue.
Yes.
Pursue, focus.
Yes.
Let this be your agenda. When you wake up in the morning, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? That's why you left. In other words, by the time you cleave, you must be at the cleavable period.
Stage.
Yeah, stage. Because if you are not at that stage, you'll still remain, the apron string will still not be cut because you still feel like you need your parents. There's a time where you need to say, now, that's it. But parents also struggle to let you go for many reasons. We're not going to get to that. And so the cleaving then is pursuing, focusing. Why is that important? Now, if we're going to talk about oneness, if we're going to talk about oneness, we're talking about the union, talking about marriage. Marriage is sacred. Marriage is very, very important in God's eyes, to a point where his relationship with human beings is always, he uses marriage as one of the analogy. I want you to understand how I relate to you. It's like marriage. Like Christ is the husband and you're the wife.
Yeah.
Do you see what is happening
Sure.
here?
Yeah.
That marriage is the most intimate relationship you can have in all relationships.
Yeah.
When a person says you are, be neutral. When a person says your father and your parents have got this issue, and then your wife, and then we're talking about your wife, that there's no be neutral. I'm on the side of my wife. You know what? Because he's mine. We're one flesh.
Yeah.
Why do you expect me to be neutral?
Yes.
I can't be
Yeah.
neutral.
Yes.
This is my wife.
Choose
You
a
are my
side.
parents.
Yes.
I don't have to choose a side.
No.
I've already chosen a
Yeah.
side when I left you.
Yes.
Yeah. That living actually means now I'm going to choose. The cleaving is a deliberate choice over in terms of priority.
Yes.
So I am biased. I am biased towards my wife. You know why? Because we are one. The Bible uses the word oneness, not just togetherness.
Yes.
Yeah.
It means we are one. It means one flesh, beloved. And the Bible calls it a mystery. It's a mystery that you've got two individuals, like 1 + 1 coming together and forming one again. After you have added, because it is one.
Yeah.
That means the most intimate, even more intimate than the parents and the children.
My God.
Of
Very
course.
important. Because if we think children are more important, and then we're going to go for them, kids don't want us individually. They want us
Yes.
together.
Yes.
In other words, it is for their advantage that we prioritize this relationship.
My goodness.
Kids want a functional marriage.
Yeah.
All right. And sometimes we feel guilty. But what will the kids say if we are going for this function for the couples? No. They want you to do that.
They actually, it's good for them.
It's good for them. They
Yeah.
may be crying, but they're just testing to
Yeah.
see how much you love each other. But it's good for them because when you spend time together, you're creating that security and stability for these
them.
children. Marriage is a blessing. You know, if we were to have families where we have people who are not married, I'm not really saying everyone must get married. I'm just taking marriage from as God's design. It was not accidental.
Yeah.
God actually purposed that we should have this thing. Research has shown that people who are married live longer.
Yes.
Research has shown that people who are married are more likely to volunteer than others. Research has shown that people who are married are less prone to depression and mental illness than others. Research has shown, yes, watch for this, that sex is even much more beautiful and more satisfying in marriage than outside.
Please repeat that for single people.
Yeah.
Sex is more enjoyable because the idea of sex is the person I sleep with will be here tomorrow and next
Meaningful.
week and next year. It has a commitment in it, and it makes marriage a beautiful experience. It makes sex a beautiful experience. That's marriage. Now, remember now, if you want to take this thing that I've just mentioned as being important and drop it and put it at the back,
Yeah.
you know what's going to happen? All the good things I've mentioned are going to become the negative.
Sure.
All right, let us stop right there maybe, and then we can then talk about, but why is it important for me to grow as an individual?
Yeah.
All right, because marriage doesn't prevent you from doing that. The reason you marry so that you can be able to grow
Yeah.
as an individual. That's why you married.
Yes.
And so once we agree on the importance of marriage, this one is this union, because we cannot take it for granted. So that's a problem. This is a fragile plant.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about balance. If it's going to be balanced, and you look at marriage as a plant, you need water, you need compost, you need sunlight, you need air in balanced proportion. Because too much air will kill it, too much water will kill it, too much compost will kill it. But the problem with us is we take our marriage for granted. It ceases to be a fragile plant. We don't care about how you feel. We don't care about your needs. We don't care about, even when a person says, listen, this is hurting. We don't care. We move on. You know what happens when you don't care? When you use the word, I don't care, you kill the plant. So this is very important on this. And maybe before I even move to the other part, and then children, career, church cannot therefore take priority. Because remember, the reason we want to use you in the church is because you are prioritizing your family. That's why we elect you. That's why we give you responsibility. We don't give people responsibility in the church who don't take care of their families, because they'll do the same with the church. So for you to qualify for church, the Bible says, if you want to be a leader, if you want to be a bishop, you must be able to take care of your family. And anyone who cannot take care of his family is worse than an infidel. So there's no way you can use church to run away from your marriage. You need your marriage in order for the church to be able to use you in order to be productive in the church. So what am I trying to say? Church, career, companionship, that is friends. I'm just trying to come up with the C's.
Yes. The C's, the three C's.
The three C's, career, church, and companionship. Your friends, and those are very important. But the moment they take precedence and priority, they not only kill your marriage, but you will also destroy that very relationship. So your church involvement gets... the moment you're divorcing and you're having problems with your family, the church will say, maybe you should sit down. You see what's happening now? That very church, that very church you thought is more important. Now, because things are not working out well, it literally... That very career that is very important. Now, all of a sudden, the person says, I'm not able to sleep now. I can't sleep. Why is it that you can't sleep? Because my wife threatens, or my wife is filing for divorce. You know what is happening now? Now you are compromising your quality in your career now.
Now it's affecting your work.
It's affecting your work. All right. Unless this is not important to you, you just wanted to get into it in order to get a four-roomed house. That happened in the past. For you to get a house, you must be married.
Yes, you must marry.
Yeah. All right, let's come back to address career. And this is very important. And we need to work on this balance. How do we balance the oneness? How do we balance us and me? Because the moment when me fights with the us, then there's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Now, the oneness, the us, should never destroy the me. Because when the me is destroyed, you are left with oneness that has got no basis. Because the two people who have come together are dead. You want to keep them alive in order to make your oneness to thrive. A oneness that has got no me and you is abusive. In other words, it is a oneness that sees your growing as an individual as a threat. And so what are you going to do? You're going to silence the individual at the expense of oneness. But that's not oneness. That's abusive relationship. That's a very toxic relationship. It's a narcissistic environment you are living in. In other words, in that oneness, only one individual must actually exist, and the other one must actually be silenced.
In fact, there's no oneness in that situation.
Of course, there's no oneness. That's why I call it abusive. It's toxic because you are saying me. But what about the other person? You can't have oneness that's based on me. There has to be oneness that's me and you. In other words, for us to strengthen and reach our oneness, the you and the me must also intentionally be enriched to give flowering of the oneness. Okay, biblically, how do we then put this together? Because we have to keep doing that. Coming back to the Bible. So what happens when God creates Adam and Eve? He doesn't create a couple.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
God did not create a couple. He created individuals. Yes. He created Adam first. All right? Before Eve, there was Adam first. In other words, there was a time when Adam existed with God alone. That's what we call being single. One of the reasons why people are struggling to have effective and enriching oneness, it is because they never had prosperous singlehood.
Oh, yes.
They were threatened in their singleness and they ran into marriage for a cover-up, for a therapy. They were not as singles, matured and contributing. And because of they lack that, they can't even find it possible to live with another person. That's another area that we don't have really time to get into. And so when God in his wisdom saw that, now I think Adam is okay.
Yes.
Of course, the Bible says it is not good for men to be alone, not to be lonely. So there was no loneliness for Adam. Adam was just alone in the sense of geography. I mean, and there's no one today who's alone, really. You've got your parents, got your brothers.
Yeah.
Adam was alone in the sense that there was no other
There was
human
none
being.
of
He had no
that.
brother.
Yeah.
And when people say, I married because I'm alone, no, you can't marry because you're alone. You're
You
not
had
alone.
people around you.
That's why we say you leave your mother, because you are not alone.
Yeah.
All right, but let's move that. So God wants to create Eve. You know what he does? He almost says he kills. He puts Adam into sleep. It's not sleep, it's deep sleep. It's a sleep with no dream. It's non-existence. Adam was in the position Eve was in when he was created.
Oh, wow.
So that
yes.
it was God and Eve alone, no Adam.
Oh, wow.
Why was he doing that? He never did that with animals. When he created animals, it was a male and a female one time. And then they were mating and multiplying. But not so with human beings. In other words, it looks like God was saying, I need to talk with you
Alone.
and tell you
Sure.
why I created you. Before you get confused when you see the other person.
My God.
I want you to be stabled. I want you to be founded in me. I want you to know that your life without me is void, is meaningless. I want you to derive meaning and purpose from me, not from your marriage. Because if you derive it from your marriage and your marriage fluctuates, which means your meaning and your purpose. You know why we have people in mental hospital? It is because their whole purpose in life is actually integrated. It is mingled and with their marriage. And so when things don't go well with marriage, it doesn't go well with their health. And so they end up in hospital. But in other words, instead of connecting, they are leaning, which is different. We lean on God, we connect with people. People we connect with can go either through death, or they decide to go. But those you lean on, when they leave, you're finished. That is why we hear people say, you're my everything, referring to a human being, because that person has taken the place of God. You're my better half. There's no better half. We're all full whole.
Equal, yes.
Full whole, 1 plus 1.
Yeah.
Because when you put half and half, you've got 2 halves.
Yes.
And maybe that's not mathematical. God completes you.
Yes.
As a single person.
As a single person, you are complete. Yes. And then you marry to complement. Now, that's very important.
Wow.
If you marry to complement, why are you now making your career compete with a person that you married to complement? Because when you chose this person, you say, this person will actually help me to achieve my purpose.
My journey. Yeah.
And the vice versa. Remember, there's no one sponsoring the other.
Yeah.
Vice versa, you were attracted to this person because your purpose is bigger than your union.
Yes.
And so your purpose directed you to this person.
Yeah.
If you want to be a tennis player and going all over the world, you can't get somebody who says, I can't even go, I want to stay at home. If you want to be a missionary visiting Pakistan and India, you don't need somebody who says, me just being here. You can't. But the time you see somebody who says, I want to go, I want to see places, I want to work for God every day, you know what? I think this is the right
connection.
Attracted. So in other words, you don't convert a person to your purpose.
No.
You are attracted to a person with similar pathway.
Yes, sir.
All right, then you come together. Now, here's a question then. Why would you then destroy this person? Why would you do that? You destroy this person at the expense of destroying your purpose. That's where we are now, on why we need to create this balance.
To create this balance.
I want us to talk about purpose a little bit, because it's what I always find to be a challenge, if I may put it that way, for couples. Because a lot of people get into marriage without a purpose. When I mean common purpose. Maybe can you just help, people or young couples in terms of how do you determine, okay, lo muntu will complement me because of the purpose? Because people are trying to find that in the marriage when now things are already, going wrong. And when you're already realizing that this person is not going to travel the world with you because that's not what they like,
And they're not wrong.
Yes,
No.
that's who they are.
Yeah.
Perhaps let's start from the beginning. How do you, in those early stages, are able to determine, okay, this is what I'm looking for in order to have umuntu that we have a common purpose
I
with?
always say, if you're looking for a life partner and you don't have life, you're trying something that's very impossible. Because for you to decide on a partner, you must also define your life. If you can't define your life for me, and then you say you're looking for a partner to partner with what?
In what?
I mean, in what? What are we partnering? What is it that you are doing? What is that you are living for that you want me to partner with? You're looking for a business partner, but you have no business. No, you can't look for a business partner and you have no business. You're looking for a business partner because you have a business. Then I'm looking for a partner. But if I'm looking for a business partner, how will you know this one will fit the business when you don't have the business? So get the life. And from a Christian perspective, we begin to see life and its purpose when we're connected with the creator of life.
Yes.
There's no shortcut. I'm not saying people may not be able. God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
You know, He can lead you to your purpose in life, and by the time you get there, and then you end up connecting with Him. I'm not trying to tell how God does His things, but I'm just theoretically saying that once you connect with God, remember what happened with Adam and Eve.
Yes.
Once you connect with God, He begins to reveal to you. It may not happen as quickly as to the other person.
Yes.
And this is what we do. Because we don't know what we want to do, we are available to assist until we find ourselves happy in assisting in this way.
Yeah.
I'm just trying, of course, there's a lot of fear around finding your purpose to a point where by the time you finish the book, you still don't know your purpose. But can I just say it in one or two sentences?
Yeah.
I don't know what God wants me to do. So what do I do? When you ask me to do something, I will do to the best of my ability.
So you avail yourself.
I avail myself. I want to assist here. The moment you say, I don't want this, I don't like this, you're getting closer to what you really
That's true.
Created for. So you avail yourself, you do your best in whatever you are given. And then as you do that, you'll be able to say, you know what, I think I find comfort in this one. And when God, first of all, purpose is, there's passion.
Yeah.
There's also ability. None of people who have passion, but they can't deliver.
Yeah.
So there's passion, there's ability to fulfill that, and there's a need. So then you come to your purpose, because that's the point of having a passion and ability, and there's no
For
need
nothing,
for that.
yes.
There's a need, there's a passion, and there's the gift, if you please, or the talent or the skill to be able to accomplish that. But you can have a skill but no passion.
That's true.
It's not everything I'm skilled at that I need to do.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm skilled, but there's passion as well.
Yeah, they go together.
Yeah, so that I'm paid to do what I love.
Yes. Oh, wow.
So that whatever it is that I do, because I love it, even if I don't get paid,
Yes.
I'll still do
You
it.
can
still
actually.
be
In other words, you
show-
can never sway me from
Yeah.
doing what you know what I mean.
Yeah.
My goodness, there's a couple who engaged themselves, or one partner at least, engaged themselves so much in personal pursuits at the expense of their marriage, right? To a point that they began to grow separately. Right? And separate growth, is there a way back for that couple?
Yes. You know, the way back is when you realize that you are strangers.
Yeah.
You will not come back if you don't realize that you are strangers. It's when you realize that I'm missing my friend.
Yeah.
Let's reconnect. I mean, I've had to talk to couples. The guys, you start dating each other. You don't know each other.
Yeah.
You don't even know what food she enjoys. Sometimes, what yields to that? We talk about empty nest when the kids are no longer there. Then you discover. While we bring up our children, we grew apart. Because we're focusing on children. And then they've left home. Then it says, who is this person that I'm
Yes,
married
strangers,
to?
yeah.
Because now I must look at you. Now I must begin to say, how do we move together? But there's been no together for the last 18 years because we're focusing on children. That means now, and divorce, by the way, then begins.
Yes.
The time when you least
Later
on, I
in-
said, no, this is a stranger. I don't know this person. So what do we do? When you realize that you are strangers, admit that we are strangers. I need to get to know you. We need to date. We need to go out together. I need to listen to, there's communication now.
Yes.
I need to listen to you because now I've forgotten about your dreams. I've forgotten about those things we used to do together. Let's start again. Let's do it. It can.
Yeah.
There's life even after realizing that you are strangers. It doesn't mean it's the end.
Because I think a lot of couples, at that point, this is when they feel they need to separate.
Yes.
actually go. In fact, people will even go to an extent of saying, I actually realized that this was not my person.
Yes.
You know, to use today's term, you know, I've realized that this is not the one for me, because now they find themselves at that point. I'm excited that we're talking about the fact that you can actually,
There's a way back.
there's a way back for you. It's not the end.
Do you know no one separate from his friend? By the time you say you are separated, because you are separated, you cannot want to have to finalize separation like legally
Yeah.
when you have not experienced it.
Yeah.
For you to divorce, you must first rehearse how to be alone,
Yeah.
how to live without your person,
Yeah.
how to live without your partner. And once you qualify and feel like I can live without it, then you say, no, I'm going to divorce you. Divorce is to say it's dead, I'm burying it.
Yeah.
Divorce doesn't kill a marriage.
It's
It
not a
recognizes
starting
that
point.
it has died.
My goodness.
That is why I say, when you realize that this thing is dead, then I promise you, it can be resurrected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we know of miracles in the Bible.
Yes.
Yeah.
It can be. Christ can resurrect.
Yeah.
He can turn your water into wine.
Yeah.
When everybody has given up, he
Yes.
can actually do that.
Yeah.
But you've got to you cannot fix something you cannot acknowledge.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
So in order for you to be able to fix it, realize that there is a problem.
If you want
problem.
resurrection, you must affirm that there's death.
Yeah. And how do we then go back
Yeah.
and rebuild, you know?
People live on denial. They're on denial. I said, no,
Yeah.
it's there. It's not admit.
Yeah.
It's not there. So what
It's
are we going to
nothing. Do you
Yeah.
see it? No,
Yeah.
you know?
It's now this sub theme we're talking about separate growth. It's almost something that is accepted, especially in the celebrity world. Often you read about couples, these ones have separated or divorcing and all of that, and they're like, no, we're not fighting, we didn't fight or anything like that. It's natural. We develop different interests in life, and he walked that way and I walked that way. And in a sense, it's normalized as something that,
After a number of years,
it's
bound to happen.
Marriage is not supposed to last till death do us part. It lasts for as long as I suppose we're still friends, and then thereafter, when I commit myself so much in this particular endeavor and leave you behind or not take you with me in the process, then I develop a lifestyle and I develop, a particular way of doing things and so on outside you, and then of course you yourself do the same thing. And then it's called separate growth. I really want to hammer on this to say that really do things really have to get to that point? Do they have to get to that point where, again, earlier on you talked about priority and so on, but do they have to get to that point where I prioritize whatever it is that I want to do as an individual pursuit, and then, while leaving you behind? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. There are two things. One, it's what you're referring to, and people who have to understand us here, what you are referring to, where we grow apart. Like separate growth, as you put it. I grow and you grow. And then in addressing that, I say, what are you missing by not growing together? You think you are far, maybe it will be further if you grow together. If you grow together.
Yeah.
And sometimes we think we are far because we have no yardstick to measure. And later on, when you are faced with death, you look back and say, you know what? I've achieved everything. I think what I've missed is 1, 2, 3. What have I invested in my children? Because remember, these children also will start their own families.
Yes.
What you call success, a few years later, it will be deemed as failure. All right? So what I'm just trying to push back on this idea that it's okay. It's not okay.
Yeah.
It is not okay. But am I saying it's not okay for people to separate? No, I'm not saying that. Because on the other end, you've got a person who says, I can't take this.
Yes.
I can't take this.
I don't want to be here.
Yeah, I can't take this. In other words, this is the person, we've looked at the first one, but this is the person who says, I'm suffocating. Each time I want to stand up, I'm beaten on the head.
Yeah.
Each time I want to stand up, I'm beaten on the head. I can't take this.
Yeah.
It has gotten to a point with my kids are also asking me, why are you still here?
Yeah.
I mean, it gets to that
Yeah.
point
Yeah.
when now the very relationship is abusive to the children.
Yeah.
It's toxic to the children. And then he says, you know what? For the sake of 1, 2, 3, 4, my health, your health is more important than your marriage. Because when you're dead, there will be no one you. There will be no you married.
Yeah.
And so when you feel like, listen, this is it. Of course, these things you don't just discover on your own.
Yes.
There's counseling,
Yeah.
talking to people who are
Yeah.
supposed to be there, and trying to put this together. It is possible to be connected to a person who is going nowhere
Yeah.
and wants to take you there.
Yes.
To nowhere.
Yeah.
To nowhere.
Wow.
And you ask him, where are you taking me? He says, follow me. He also doesn't know.
Sure.
And you follow for 10 years, and and you follow and you pay for the trip.
Stagnation.
With your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
I want us to get into, because I think, no disrespect to men, but I also find that a lot of women find it challenging because they are led by someone who doesn't have a map themselves, or who doesn't have a vision, or doesn't know where they're going, talking about going nowhere. How can, what is it that men can do, to assist them to get into having this vision? Because the biggest challenge that most women find, I'm here, I'm married, I love this person, but I need to know where we are going, And that's where most of the challenges are. I don't know where we are going. We are just existing, years are going and all of that, but there's no vision that this person has put forward to me to say, follow me here.
Yeah. People before they married, it's not like the person lost a vision. He had no vision, even when you married him. The parents will tell you, he's always been like this. Even when you married him, he was like this. We were wondering how you got attracted to him. So don't try and be an Einstein now. After getting your master's,
As though
it's like, this guy I married to has a low IQ, but how high was yours when you chose him?
Oh my.
Yeah.
If you had such a high IQ, how come now that you got into this? It's very important. When you choose a partner, you're choosing a father for your children. You've got to look at the person and say, can he be a father to my children? But people don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
They're so excited running away from something.
Yeah.
And they don't care to check where they're running into.
Yeah.
All right, then that becomes a problem. So the question then is, what does God expect me in my role as a husband? And there, as you put it in the Bible, it says, you're a leader. So how am I equipping myself as a leader to lead my family? As a single person, how am I getting myself ready to lead my family? I'm married. How am I showing leadership here?
Yeah.
You cannot say to your children, who's the father here? Because when you ask that question, you're confusing the kids. Because that question should not be asked. Because the kids are going to say, who's the father? They start Googling, checking on the internet, who is the father?
And for you as a father to ask that, it means now you don't know.
Yeah. Kids should know who the father is. So, but at the same time, you've got fathers who don't even know, because they grew up also in families where fatherhood was never defined.
Yeah.
Either by lack of good example or absence.
Well, there was none.
No, that none. And so you've got a child says, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And we're not trying to be hard on men here. All we're saying is we have them. And that's why we need each other as men. And when we meet to say, what does it mean to be a father? Let's talk about that as men.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Women come together. By the time they come out of that meeting, they know how to cook. They've got new recipes.
Listen.
They've got this, they've got that. They know which is the best school for your child. They've got this. This is cheap. If you want to buy groceries, cheap. I mean, within that short time, they've got everything. We come together. By the time we leave, you know what's the latest car, the model. This one is 4.6 valves. This one is like this. I mean, nothing about the family. Why is it that when we come as men, married, we don't talk about our families?
Yes, sir.
Why is it that when we leave, there's nothing you can bring back home and say, you know what, Daddy has been out on a weekend with men. No, that's why now all of a sudden we're praying before we sleep. We never used to have this, but you got it out there when you met with the men. Guys, it's important for us to pray. Hey, but exegents, how do you do that? Where do we even start? It's us, man. Yeah. This is how you started. And you come back home and said, you know what? I'm going to try this at home. We don't. So you meet with men, you come back, you're still like a boy. You come back with bigger toys to look forward to rather than building relationship. So what am I trying to say? We need to understand our insufficiency. And when we meet as men, let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk and say, guys, how do we do it? How do you show love? I grew up without a father. And how can I show? What does it mean? Let's talk about that. Let's share. Of course, make it your responsibility as well to look for it. It's no use talking to us about your wounds.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you are to blame for the wounds, but you have the responsibility for healing.
Yes. Now that you've got a family.
Now, you've got a wound. You've been knocked by a car. You are alive. You are on the side of the pavement. What do? You see this, I was knocked by a car. Or do you say, guys, can you call an ambulance? Guys, take me to the hospital. It's your responsibility from that point to look after yourself. You can't stay blaming the driver who knocked you. He will answer for that. He takes responsibility for that. But take responsibility for your healing. I never had a father that we have a wound. How are you addressing it? Because hurt people. So if you're not going to address that wound, you're going to cause other wounds. Yeah. So how are you addressing it? Come and tell us that you never had a father. There are people who realize that, who acknowledge it, but they look for help to be able to deal with the wound, the absent father wound, so that they don't create the same for their children.
Because the thing is, your children have a father in you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to show up.
Yeah. You can't keep saying, but my kids, I never had a father, but we have a father.
Yeah. Yeah, you are here. Because now it's going to be a recurring sort of thing, because you didn't have a father. Now everyone needs to suffer, in the process.
Yeah. It gets to a point where you literally find shelter in not having a father. It gives an excuse not to, of disengaging. It gives an excuse not to stand up and be counted. I didn't have a father, because we grew up under this period. So whatever, come on, make a list of your wounds and address them. Yeah. Don't keep parading them. Make a list of them and then deal with them. Because if you don't, you're going to wound others. And those wounds you cause to others will be worse than the ones you sustain at home. Because it will be your wounds and the other wounds you have caused. There will be two now.
Yeah.
Double.
Sure. Wow, this is really deep.
Yeah. So, oh man, there's so many things as you are speaking, and there's something you said, and I think that we're drawing towards the close. And I think that we did achieve the importance of striking this balance, in a marriage. But I just want to pick up on a certain number of things that you said. You did say earlier on that your purpose is more important than your marriage, right? And we always say it like that as well, Uguti, that your purpose, what God created you for, is more important than the person you choose to get married to. Can you expound on that?
Okay, Samson. Samson, you know why Samson came to be? It is because they were under the oppression of the Philistines as one of the judges. Yeah. And so when God spoke to their parents, he said, you're going to have a child, and he's going to be a Nazarite. He's not going to cut his hair. He's not going to do this, all right? And he's going to deliver his children. That was the mission.
Yeah.
That was the purpose.
Yes.
Samson was a miraculous child.
Yes.
And for that specific reason. Fast forward. He's looking for a partner. He finds a wife.
Yeah.
And then the parents says, are there no women in Israel?
Yes.
Why are the parents saying that? Because you are here to deliver us from the Philistines, but you are marrying them.
The Philistines.
When are you going to fulfill your purpose?
Wow. My goodness.
You know what happened? Because of that choices, he ended up compromising his purpose. The last time we saw him, he had no eyes.
Yeah.
Because with the eyes that God had given him, he pursued other things besides God's purpose. And the parents were correct. Sure. Samson, why is it? Are there no women in Israel who share this purpose? Are there no women in Israel? You know what he said? She pleases me. But that was not the question.
Yeah. Someone who shares the same purpose.
You know, your feelings can follow your purpose. but they don't determine your purpose.
That's good.
So he says, this is how I feel at the moment, and therefore my purpose in life is to follow my feelings. And he did to the latter, and he lost his eyes because he followed his feelings and not his purpose.
So are you saying your purpose comes first?
Yeah.
And then your feelings.
Your feelings are actually regulated by your purpose.
Yeah.
If I am here, if okay. If I want to be a medical doctor, you know what that means? It means I must go to school. I must pass matric.
Yes.
Study. Is it always good to study? No.
No.
It's not. But my purpose is to be a doctor. So what do? Do I choose feelings or purpose? If I choose purpose, then I choose discipline. Discipline means doing away with that which sabotages my purpose. That's what discipline means.
Yeah.
Discipline means giving myself what I want.
Sure.
That's discipline.
Yeah.
Not what I want to a point of not having discipline. I discipline myself because I want to be a doctor. So through discipline, I want to make sure that I bequeath myself with what I want. I want to be a doctor, so I'm going to be disciplined. So that's how it goes. You will not be able to say no when the proposal or the proposition has no purpose to regulate it.
Oh, yeah.
I can give you ample examples. When Mrs. Potiphar says to Joseph, come sleep with me, Joseph says, but that's not my purpose. My purpose is not sleeping with women.
Yes.
I've got a better reason here. And it comes out in Genesis 5 where it says, God had a plan to save many people. You sold me, but God had a plan. But God's plan was not for you to be sleeping with women.
Yeah.
And so the reason he could say no, it was because it was something contrary to the purpose.
To the purpose. Ish.
You can't have no if you have no purpose.
Yeah.
It's your purpose that says you can't go for that one. Why? It militates against your purpose.
Yeah.
It militates against your dream, if you please.
Yeah.
So you're not going for that. Not only in the choice of a life partner, but in the choice of a lifestyle.
Yes.
Because you can have a lifestyle that actually sabotages
Your purpose.
In my language, it's Xhosa. We as tagad. You bewitch yourself when you choose something that derails you from your purpose.
Wow.
And
So
it takes you having spent that time, what you said earlier on, with God individually as a single person for you to know. Because it was interesting for Eve to say when in the garden she was approached, by the devil. The Bible says that she said, oh, we can eat from everywhere else, but we can't. In other words, there was an awareness because there was that time that was spent individually. In other words, for you to be ready for marriage, you got to know what you are created for first.
Yeah. For you to be able to live with another creature, you must know who's your creator and why he created you. We're living at a time where God as a creator is being contested. And because of that, we don't even identify and recognize creatures because we're still struggling with understanding who the creator is. If I evolve from animals, then the person seated next to me is an animal. So you can't tell me how I should treat that person.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to relate to a creature, I need to first find out where am I coming from, because I will treat that creature based on how I understand my own origin. Without common fatherhood, there's no brotherhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a situation where you meet both as single people? I've got my purpose, you've got your purpose. So almost something like a dual purpose. Is there something of that sort, or you need to get to a point where you both have one purpose?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
There's no one person. People are different.
Yeah.
You can have the similar purpose, not the same.
Okay.
It's nuanced differently because remember your gifts, your talents, your opportunities, your growth,
May
your
be
background.
different, yeah.
You are different. Whatever you will do for God will always have a touch of your personality.
Yeah.
All right. So it doesn't have to be. We could both be teachers, But in my teaching, my teaching will be nuanced differently from your teaching. But we don't have to be both teachers. You can be a doctor and I'm a teacher. And I become a good teacher because I'm married to a good doctor. And you become a good doctor because I'm married to a good teacher.
So you basically support each other's purposes in life.
How does this dovetail? In other words, those are the questions you need to ask. If I'm going to marry this person, how does it dovetail to my own purpose? And you can find links and say, you know what? This is what I need.
Yeah.
This is the person I need in my life. But my question is, why would you then later on want to get rid of that person?
That's what beats me.
I mean, really. It's like, now I've achieved.
Yeah.
So I'm getting rid of this. It's an ATM. I've gotten the money. I'm leaving. No, it doesn't. Maybe it does. I don't know.
Yeah.
It depends how we. But of course, let's probably, because we're individuals, we will disagree.
Yes.
We will have conflict.
Yeah.
Conflict is not a bad thing. Conflict means we are two people, two different people.
Yeah.
But because we love each other.
Yeah.
So conflict is another way of bringing growth.
Yeah.
So I get to know you.
Yeah.
Conflict says you don't know this about me. That's why we are conflicting. All right? So as we solve the conflict, I get to know you. Okay.
Use it as a teaching moment, you know?
Conflict.
Because I think rather than looking at conflict as a fight, but it's an opportunity for you to learn more, you know,
and
about
that?
Yeah.
By communicating.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Openness.
Openness.
Yeah.
So this is what I like. Being assertive, 1. 2, being an active listener.
Yes.
Because there's no use being assertive and the other person's not listening. So we need both skill to be assertive.
Yes.
Which is a rare gift, by the way, and an active listener.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this was really...
I think we need to have you often.
This was a masterclass of...
What?
Well,
it was meant to be.
I think you need to
that
come
was
back.
Intentional.
Yeah, I think you need to come back on this podcast because
I feel like we did not finish. That's why I'm feeling
for me, I feel like we finished. We're exhausted the theme, but every time I sit with Dr. Papu, I always there's whole lot of things that I want to. I feel like I wish we could talk about this.
Yeah.
I wish we could. You know what I mean? So.
Thank you so much.
Time allowing, and perhaps with Uma next time.
And she'll be correcting me all the way.
No.
We miss her.
No,
we really miss her.
Doc, thank you so much. I think this was really, really brilliant.
Yeah.
And I'm certain people have learned a lot. And I think this is what this platform is for.
Yeah.
You know, where we empower people and educate and get people to learn and unlearn certain things.
Because that's growth.
That's growth on its own. Because sometimes you find yourself in a certain place. All you need to do really is for you to unlearn certain things that you have learned, over the years.
My father was like this, so
yes, and therefore
I'll also be like
I'm going to remain like that. But was your father good in being who they were?
Like that,
So there's so much that we need to learn and unlearn, especially where marriage is concerned. And with that, I'm saying I support the next.
Oh, your support. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our time. Thank you so much for joining us for this wonderful episode with Dr. Papu. And please do let us know if you want us to have him again. And we know that we definitely want to have him. And again, and until we meet again next time, keep subscribing. Thanks for the comments. And keep liking and let us know what you think of the conversation. And may God bless you.
Until
Thank you
next
so
time.
much.